police. Monper reportedly made the threats between January 15th and April 5th and said he is going to carry out a mass shooting eventually, but they got him. For more, let's bring in the former sheriff of Pinal County, Arizona, Mark Lamb. Mark, great to have you back on the show. I mean, your reaction to this and what in the world is in the water in Butler, PA, but I guess that's a separate issue. But good morning to you, Sheriff.
Look, David, I don't know what's in the water in Butler, PA, but I can tell you this was a good arrest. I remember 10, 20 years ago when we grew up, you never said anything violent about the president because you'd be afraid that the FBI would crash through your windows and arrest you. You know, we've gotten over the last 10 years where with social media, these people have gotten increasingly more violent towards our elected officials. And it has become alarming. You know, it used to be you could just, throw it off to the side. But with what happened to the president in that same Butler, PA, where he was shot and by the grace of God saved from that bullet, this could be a very different situation. So I think they need to take these threats serious. They did in this case. And I, too, like Pam Bondi, congratulate them for good work.
I'd like to point your attention to a CBS headline that basically says that President Trump has authorized the military to take control of public land along the southern border. Since you live along the southern border and you have patrolled it, seen it for yourself, what exactly does this mean and what would the benefit of this be?
Well, first of all, when I saw it was a CBS headline, I had to go verify it somewhere else because you can't trust CBS.
Fair enough.
But I did go verify it. And look, I love the idea. We need to protect our country. I just said, on a different interview, I said, it's funny because Americans are all about sending troops to the Ukrainian border to protect their border. But heaven forbid we send troops to our own border to protect our country from an invasion. What we saw over the last 4 years was an invasion. It meets the definition of an invasion. Military-age men by the millions coming into this country. And now you have the cartel going out and saying, look, we are authorizing violence against local law enforcement, border patrol with the use of weaponized drones and other things. Who can compete with that? The military can. And the military can compete with the weaponry that the cartels have. I think it is absolutely okay that we protect our borders. I'm 100% for this and glad to see it.
So, Sheriff, what is that going to look like with the military on the border?
Allison, that's a good question because a lot of people think, well, the military can't go help enforce the law. That comes from the 1878 Posse Comitatus Act or law, which basically said they couldn't get involved with the law. I agree with that. I don't want the military out enforcing the law as a sheriff. But I don't think they're enforcing the law here. They're protecting our border. That's a different thing. These people that are coming in this country are not citizens. They're not affecting a law against a fellow citizen. They're protecting our country from people coming in. What does it look like? They're not going to be standing there most likely with guns down there. They're going to be assisting Border Patrol with the mission. They're going to be providing more troops on the ground and bolstering up that border, making it a lot more difficult for people to come into this country. The idea is we get that number from 7,000, which is a great number right now with the work of President Trump and this administration, but we should be getting it down to zero. Zero human trafficking, zero drugs being trafficked into this country.
Let me ask you this, Sheriff. There's some older video. It's now resurfacing, of Hillary Clinton talking tough, LOL, on the border. Have a look.
So I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
Sheriff, I'm from New York. I think we call these people a piece of work back there. These people, I mean, she's talking tough, but they don't mean any of it. And then it's the same thing with tariffs, right? I mean, we cue up the clips of Nancy Pelosi and all these other folks talking about China, get them, tariffs. Oh, no, never mind. We don't really believe that.
You're challenging my sensibilities this morning by making me agree with Hillary Clinton. I never thought I would ever agree with Hillary Clinton on something. But I agree with her on this. And it's not just Hillary Clinton. It's a whole list of other elected officials from 10, 20 years ago who felt exactly the way that President Trump and the American people do in protecting our country, whether it relates to people that came into this country illegally, or like you said, the tariffs, or even more, the DOGE. How many videos have we seen of Democrats talking about wanting to cut down the spending in government? Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton's husband, he cut, 400,000 jobs during his tenure. So the hypocrisy just continues. But the left thinks there's no video of any of this. And they, even when you show them the video, they're like, well, I never said that. They just do not want to agree with President Trump. That's how much they hate him. But they can, it's hard to, right now, everything that he's doing is what they said 10 years ago.
Well, Sheriff Lamb, no, go ahead. Go ahead, Terrence.
I'm sorry, Sheriff Lamb. I've got to ask you this question. We're always going to call you Sheriff Lamb, even though you did step down and you're technically not the sheriff of Pinal County, Arizona anymore, but you're always the sheriff in my heart. So I'm curious if you view the border crisis differently now as a civilian, as opposed to being intimately involved in it as the sheriff there in Pinal County. And part B of that question, what's your political future looking like now? I know you're probably enjoying the time off and not having to answer anybody, but I get the sense that something else is up your sleeve.
Well, I do enjoy the time off, Terrence. I love sitting around here, being at my house. I'm still working a ton. I'm very active in the border. I'm working as a law enforcement advisor for FAIR, the Federation of for American Immigration Reform out of Washington, D.C. That's fairus.org. Go check them out. They're very active. We're working on trying to make sure that we get sheriffs. It's a good time to get them on as 287G, which means they work with our ICE and our federal government in making sure that the people who commit crimes in this country are removed. So I'm staying very active in the border. It's a little bit different because I can't go out and ride around in my own truck and affect traffic stops and pull people over for driving too slow in the left lane. But I can still be very active in the border, and I am staying active. And I'm also working with a few other companies in law enforcement. As far as politics in my future, that's a rich man's profession. I got to make a little bit more money before I can entertain getting back into politics.
Fair enough answer. I one last question. As someone who's been on the border crisis for the past couple of decades, I would just love to know what you think. When you look back and see what's happened over the past 60 days, your thoughts?
I love it. You know, and it's what I said. All we had to do was go back to the Trump era policies. We saw a lot of success with the Trump era policies. Now we're seeing it again. And I think the numbers continue to get better and better. The reality is it's as simple as just saying what you mean and doing what you say. Your actions lining up with what you say, removing people that came into this country illegally, not letting them come across the border, not letting false asylum claims, getting these safe third country acts, agreements in place with other countries. All of these are the things that needed to be done. I love seeing it. President Trump is doing exactly what he told the American people that he would do, and exactly what the American people voted him in to do. And so I love seeing it. I kind of still wish I was in the game some days just to be part of it, but I am trying to stay as active as I can.
Sheriff Mark Lamb, thanks for getting up early with us. I know you're out there in Arizona. We appreciate it. Go take a Biden. In other words, go take a nap.
You are challenging me today. I can never take a Biden. I don't know.
No,
I can never do that.
No, don't try that at home. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Sheriff. Take care.
Great stuff. He's like out of Central Cast.